Good Monday morning. Look at all the flowers in the studio. These must be from the Kentucky Derby. I'm thinking. I'll have to check with Michelle. But they look absolutely beautiful. Look at that bouncing up against our Stargazer lily picture, which Dr. Sara Franco gave us, which was so sweet back around my birthday. I hope you had a fabulous weekend. A lot of celebrating the Kentucky Derby as well as Cinco de Mayo. Did you go to parties? Let us know if you had a great time. Of course, I want to thank Michelle and Mike Harmon for inviting us over. Fabulous Kentucky Derby party. And what a finish. Did you watch that race? Mystic Dan winning by a nostril. I mean, that that horse just stuck its nose up and won the Kentucky Derby. Congratulations to Mystic Dan. It was really exciting. That's the kind of photo finish that you want when you're watching the Kentucky Derby. And then Cinco de Mayo, we had a lot of people weighing in on where their favorite Mexican restaurants were, so hopefully maybe you checked some of those out. And then here we are, kicking off a brand new week, and as you're heading out this morning, a lot of spray coming up onto your car. Not so much as far as the actual rain falling down now, but the roads are wet, so be careful if you're getting ready to head out into the heart of the commute. We got a busy week on tap for you. Today, of course, is our health-related day, so Medical Monday. Ask the doctor, and today we're going to talk about shoulder injuries, and I think that can affect a lot of you. Things to look for and when it really gets to a point that you're going to have to start discussing surgeries. We're going to talk with Dr. Sean Neary first with Mid-America Spine and Rehab. Have you gone in yet? Have you been putting your health on hold? Don't do that. I know a lot of you in the beginning were really excited saying you were going to get in to see him. Make sure you make the appointment. And then we have Dr. Sara Franco. As we get from spring and closing into the summer months, a lot of you start thinking about, look at sleeveless dresses. Guys taking their shirts off around the pool. Ladies putting on the swimsuits. Are you frustrated? Have you done everything that you feel like you could, but you've got those last stubborn maybe 10 pounds and you don't like how the body looks? It's all about your confidence. So have you ever thought of body contouring? Well, there are some treatments that InVita Health and Wellness can do for you. So we're going to talk about that today. We're going to get you some news you can use, but first, what? The weather.
Look at that 5-day stretch of really warm temperatures. Is definitely going to be a great weekend.
Well, if you are new to our show, we have a meteorologist. He is an aspiring meteorologist, Beckett Moore, and unfortunately, he woke up this morning not feeling his best. I told him, go back to bed, rest up. But as he is diligent enough to get us his slides that he would use. Now, I'm not going to do him justice, but I will do everything I possibly can to deliver his forecast to you. And one of the things I want you to be aware of is some severe weather watch days. 2 of them, in fact, tomorrow and Wednesday. Let's start off, though, with our slide for today. I mentioned that there is rain that is kind of coming to an end, but a little light drizzle. It's 63 degrees. And for the morning, you're going to have some wet roads. So you're heading out for that commute. Just be aware of that. Want to slow your speed. Of course, we always say to watch the car in front of you. Make sure you have enough distance behind you. But then that's really going to get out of the way. We're actually going to salvage a nice day into this afternoon. Mostly sunny and a high of 77. Now, tomorrow morning, actually even into the overnight hours and into the early morning hours, this is what we have to watch out for. So there is a line of storms that are going to come through around the 4 to 6 a.m. time frame, Beckett says. Damaging winds will be the main threat, but there is a possibility for a few brief tornadoes. So we're looking at this map, and you can see a marginal risk for the St. Louis, Jefferson City, Rolla. We go out west in Springfield, West Plains, Nevada, Joplin area. Poplar Bluff has a light, and that's more Farmington, Poplar Bluff, a light risk. As we go into Wednesday, we can see the map from a marginal to light to an enhanced risk, and that's enhanced, unfortunately, for our St. Louis, our Columbia, our Jefferson City, Rolla, down in the Farmington, Poplar Bluff, West Plains, and Springfield area. So 2 weather watcher days. Now, tomorrow, again, as we are heading in, I'm going to keep an eye to the radar to make sure we put none of our team in danger or our guests that are planning to come in. Again, 77 for a high today. Sunshine, even though it doesn't look like it right now, but it will be sunshine later this afternoon. 67 for a low. Early morning, again, is what we're watching out tomorrow. 83 though, those higher warm temperatures, 60 for a low, afternoon rain, and 81 on Wednesday. And then it gets out of here. I mean, it looks like we salvage a nice week Thursday into the weekend with highs in the low to mid 70s and those lows in the 50s. We opened our pool over the weekend. It's green. How many of you are already doing that? Or are you going to wait until Memorial Weekend? We've got some warmer days ahead for sure. In news, the news that I feel that you can use. First of all, for those of you that shop at Schnucks, I saw this morning and I want to give you the codes on this. There is a recall taking place and Schnucks customers are urged to check for Schnucks whipped cream spread with a Best By date of 8/8, a Schnucks strawberry spread with a Best By date of 9/8, and then Schnucks cream cheese spread with a Best By date of 10/8. Those affected products can be returned to the nearest Schnucks store for a full refund or exchange. So go ahead and look in the refrigerator and see if you have any of those in your refrigerator. Actor Bernard Hill of Titanic fame and Lord of the Rings died at the age of 79. Bernard Hill was the captain of Titanic, so rest in peace, sir. Also, it is with incredible sadness that we share that we lost a gorilla at the St. Louis Zoo. The Western lowland gorilla Little Joe, who had been in treatment for heart disease, died of a heart attack overnight on May 4th. The zoo's tweet says Joe's wonderful personality and lovable, grumpy face endeared him to all who knew him. He will be greatly missed. You know, we were talking about rain. There is a water main break that happened in North St. Louis at Penrose and Blair, so be aware of that. Also, a family is hospitalized after they jumped from an apartment building in St. Peter's to safety after that fire overnight. They are hospitalized. This was at Delray Court, just north of Willett Avenue. And then in sports news, it was a busy weekend. Let's start with some of the better news. The Battlehawks winning over Houston with a score of 22-8. Roman Berkey, who's absolutely one of my favorites on the St. Louis City SC team, 10 huge high saves to keep it at a tie with Houston. 0-0 was the final over the weekend. Their next game will be against Chicago. That'll be at City Park on Saturday. And not so good news, the Cardinals are 4 games under 500. They lost to the White Sox 5-1. Come on, Cards. It's the Mets and the Cardinals tonight at 6:45. And get ready, by the way, to hear a lot of noise. I understand that the cicadas, and there will be millions of them. Cicadas are making their way into our area. Some people were, I guess, sending in pictures of them in their yards already. And if you want to, I don't know why you do, but if you want to see a lot of them, they say go to a park where there are a lot of trees. They will be gathering in your trees in your backyard very soon and most likely keeping you up overnight because they're very, very loud. And we have 2 broods that will be emerging on our area. Oh, goody. It is 7:09. Again, I'll be looking at your comments. A lot of people saying good morning. I hope you had a fabulous weekend, and I hope you're ready for our health news as we get into our Medical Monday Ask the Doctor segment. Before I do that, let me say good morning to those of you that are on. Some people saying, feel better, Beckett. Exactly. We hope we can get him back tomorrow. Good morning, Luann and Kathleen. Morris, good morning and happy Monday. The feel better came from Julie Purcell, by the way. Feel better to Beckett. Weather from the deck. Could have filled in for Beckett, Rich says, from Dude's Playground. Julie Purcell says good morning to everyone, as Sean Fitzgerald as well. A lot of you on watching that haven't said hi yet. Oh, I see George Wise, who works with us before he gets off to his project job today, watching as well. So, George, we hope you have a good one. And before we bring our guest in, I want to say congratulations to our own Zach Kimball, who I understand walked in his graduation this past weekend. I wish I had some pictures of that. Zach, you know we love you. Congratulations to you. All right, it's 7:10 and it's time to get underway. Let's bring Dr. Sean Neary in with Mid-America Spine and Rehab, and let's talk about these shoulders today.
InVita Health and Wellness, where you can feel your best both inside and out. InVita isn't your typical med spa. They're a multi-specialty medical spa and wellness center serving St. Louis and its surrounding areas. They have ketamine for mental health and pain, IV therapy, medical weight loss, and aesthetics treatments. As board-certified anesthesia providers, InVita can ensure that their advanced treatments are provided safely with minimal to no pain. So let InVita take care of you. Call 314-394-0950 to book an appointment or online, InVitaHealthandWellness.com.
Welcome back. 7-Eleven. I did just confirm all of these flowers are, in fact, from Michelle's house. It was the Run for the Roses, the Kentucky Derby over the weekend. As I mentioned, it was exciting to watch for sure. It is 7:10 and time to get underway with our Medical Monday. First of all, let me welcome in our guest, Dr. Sean Neary. How are you?
Good morning. Just a great day
It
out
is
there.
a great day.
Just a little gloomy, but
No.
yeah, it's great.
Hey, the grass needs it, the flowers need it, right?
Yes, we do. It's
Did
great.
you have fun over the weekend? Did you go to any celebrations?
Didn't do any celebrations. Helped the girlfriend build a garden in her front yard.
Oh.
So yeah, it was really nice.
Good man.
Right before the rain on Saturday, so it was
Yeah.
perfect
See?
timing.
She's happy that
She's
it's
happy
raining.
now. Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
We don't have to. So I didn't do any Cinco de Mayo celebrating yesterday, which I'm surprised. I love Mexican food, but we were just busy. I cleaned out my closet for the first time in years.
And I saw your derby hat.
Yes.
Yeah, you guys are great.
Thanks to Hats by Diane Isbell. Yes, we had a wonderful one. Did you watch the race?
I did not. That's one of those that always just passes
Passes
me
by?
Yeah. I'm like, oh yeah, that was yesterday.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Well, if you had watched, this would have been one to watch because literally this was the finish.
I saw the
A
finish.
nostril.
Yeah, I saw the finish. Like that was a great comeback
Yes.
by Rich something.
Mystic Dan. Mystic Dan
Is
was
that
the
what it
winner.
is? Yeah.
Yes, and you would have watched him like way back, and that's what's always fun because people are like, "Oh, my horse is winning." I'm like, "Nope,
Not yet."
They're gonna get tired. They take off too fast. They're
Right.
gonna get tired. They
Yep.
can't maintain that." Well, we hope you all had a fabulous weekend. One of the things that Sean and I were talking about last week is as we go through looking at different topics that we know are going to really affect a big majority of the audience are these different types of injuries. And today's has to do with shoulders. And I had a lot of people over the weekend go, "Oh, I can't wait to hear this one because I've dealt with this or I'm feeling this pain and that pain." Things not to dismiss. So let's
Yes.
start with that. What should we be looking for that might be warning signs?
In general, any type of shoulder pain, something's wrong. A big indicator is reaching into the back seat of your car. If you can reach back with no pain, you're probably good. But a lot of people reach back and they get
The
it's
front
right
head.
on that front area here. But we have to figure out what it is.
Right.
Because there's so many muscles, there's tendons, ligaments, everything in the shoulder. Which one is it? So we do a lot of diagnostic testing to figure out what the problem is. And a lot of people say, oh, it's my rotator cuff. Like,
Everyone always goes to that why.
it's rotator cuff because that's what they just get told. But nobody tells you what the rotator cuff is.
Right.
Right. You and I know, though, the rotator cuff is a group of 4 different muscles that are attached to the scapula or the shoulder blade. That's 4 muscles. There are 17 muscles that attach to the scapula.
Oh, wow.
From the front, back, sides. So we have to figure out which one it is. Typically, if we see a tear, it's that top one, supraspinatus, comes from the top of the shoulder, goes down into the upper arm. It is we have a very particular test that we do for that one to figure out if that's the problem.
And what's the test?
It's called the soup can.
Soup can?
Soup can. So you take your hand, flip it
Turn it
upside
over.
down, and if I put pressure there and you give out, that's your supraspinatus.
Okay.
Yeah, that is one of the most common ones, but it runs right on top of the shoulder. But also, look at all those other muscles right there. You have your deltoid, the subscapularis. That one's actually on the backside between the ribs and the scapula. You have your long head of your bicep tendon. You have your pec muscles all coming into that same area. So which one is it?
Right.
Also, what do we do for it?
Well, I was going to say, when we come into you and you're trying to determine without doing x-rays and everything else, do you do that right away? And
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So if they're
We do.
coming in saying, hey, I have a shoulder problem, you go right into x-rays and then break it down. But there's some things that can't be seen on x-rays.
Exactly. So soft tissue cannot be seen on x-rays. So that's why we have the diagnostic muscle testing that we'll figure out. And if it is very weak, for a muscle, we grade it from 0 to 5. 5 is very strong. 0 is there's no mobility at all. If you're testing at a 1 or a 2, which is very light restraint, and your muscles are giving away, I will probably send out for an MRI or an ultrasound. Let's see if there is a tear in there.
This is what I see, unfortunately, as a trainer. And when people come to me, they dismiss all of these warning signs and they let it go. And then it gets worse and worse and worse. The pain is worse.
Right.
They try to fight through exercises that I say you probably shouldn't be doing, or let's work in a range that you can. Oh, I think I can push it a little bit more. And then more damage, more inflammation happens.
Exactly. Again, like what I started with, any sort of pain in the shoulder, let's be cautious. You don't want to go heavy weights. You want to go resistance bands to start with, maybe. But if there's a tear, we don't want to do any exercises yet. We need to repair that tissue.
Well, let me ask this though, let me go. I'll look at comments. Some people, when they have an injury and they hear the word tear, immediately say, "Oh, it's going to have to be surgery."
Right.
Not necessarily
Not
the case.
Not necessarily at all, really. So we grade, I believe it's 1 through 3. A grade 1 tear is under 25% of that tendon being torn.
Mm-hmm.
Grade 2 is 50%. And if we get to a grade 3, we have almost a full tear. Now, and then there's a full rupture, which is past a grade type 3. If we're 3 or further, that's a surgical. But if we're in a type 1 or 2 tear, we can repair those tissues without surgery.
Through physical therapy?
Physical therapy, our cold laser and infrared is one of our very first go-tos. So when we're dealing with a tear, we have to figure out, is it muscle, tendon, or ligament?
Mm-hmm.
So muscles are red fibers. They have good blood supply. And if it's a muscle issue, those get healed up within a couple weeks without any intervention.
But they need to rest.
They need to rest. Because
And while they're resting, what are they doing? I know we've talked in the past about heat and ice, etc. We should be icing?
We're icing, yes. Heat will feel good at the moment, but in the future, we're just increasing that inflammation. So we like to ice and rest for a little bit and repair those tissues.
Let me ask this, because I remember back in high school, college sports, then when I started studying sports medicine and athletic training and all of that in college, it was the whole RICE.
Yes.
Is that still? Do you know what RICE stands for, everybody? Rest.
Test them.
ICE. What does C and E stand for? Okay, that's
There
a
we
good
go.
point. Let's go
Yeah.
ahead and do that. How many of you know what RICE, and don't Google it?
Right.
How many of you know what RICE stands for? We already said rest and ice, but do C and E still exist?
They still exist depending on the injury.
Okay.
For shoulders, it's hard for the E if they can figure it out.
We're testing you.
testing you.
Answer C and E.
And also for the C, it's hard with the shoulder, but we can do some sort of wraps and.
Okay.
But again, what we like to do is our passive therapies. Again, the cold laser, the infrared, and ultrasound is our very first line of defense.
I'm just glad that you're all hearing that if someone says you have a tear, that your mind doesn't have to think you have to go find a surgeon. Oh my gosh, I got to go to a surgeon already, and I'm going to have surgery. That's not necessarily the case. And as he said, oftentimes it doesn't have to be, depending on the level that it's at.
Depending on the level, yes.
So when are we at a level where there's nothing that can be done, we have to have surgery?
So again, those are the type 3 or 4s. If we're at a 90% tear or a full rupture, yeah, we need to get those fibers connected via surgery.
And it depends on
Unfortunately.
the injury of whether or not it's laparoscopic or open shoulder?
Exactly. And these rotator cuff surgeries, that repair is really hard. It takes a long time to get for the physical therapy, because the first, I think, 6 weeks, you're immobile.
Yes.
Because you can't move anything.
And Angie just answered, ding, ding. You don't get anything, though. You just thank you. Oh, someone. Okay, hold on. Angie's correct. Compression and elevate. Kathleen Morris, you said it as well. Compression and elevate. Michelle says cussing and expletives.
Those work too.
Oh my gosh, my shoulder hurts. Yes, absolutely. If you're just tuning in and you're new to our show, we do this on Mondays. We take care of your body, your health. We're talking with Dr. Sean Neary, Mid-America Spine and Rehab. And we'll go ahead and put on the screen where they're located, and we'll do it again near the end for you, because I want to make sure that you don't dismiss these problems. So stay well, stl.com is the website. To make your appointment, though, and please do that, 314-966-8989. I remember when I first had you on, how many people just flooded, oh my gosh, I need to get in and see him.
Yeah.
And then you forget to take care of yourself. So I believe it was Beckett's mom that said, I need to get in. I think she said something about scoliosis. Jill, make the phone call. And to all of you, don't dismiss these problems. Let me ask this. Oh, okay, before I ask this question, Stephanie says, what is a good treatment for bursitis?
Bursitis is a tough one. It's an inflammation of the bursa that's around the joint capsule. Ice and rest is the biggest one for that. There's very little physical therapy that we can do for bursitis, unfortunately.
So if they do the resting in the ice, though, will it subside the pain?
It does subside the pain. And once we get rid of the pain and we're on the road to recovery, then we can start incorporating some of these exercises. You went over a bunch of good ones last Thursday. You were talking about shoulders. That was perfect timing.
Thank you.
But if the fibers are still torn, if we do these exercises, these internal and external rotation, the front raises, we're just tearing those more and doing more damage. Again, 17 muscles. So you're working additional muscles, but if the one that's injured is not being healed up correctly, the other ones start to be recruited and you're doing more damage. And then yeah.
Well, one of the things that I think you all need to understand is, again, he's talking about 17 muscles, and everyone always goes, oh, I hear it's my deltoid. No, there's so much more that goes in there. I think the aha moment I gave one time when people really break things down of what they're doing when they're doing movement is when they do a plank, and there is some pressure. So if you think, well, it's a shoulder injury, but I thought you guys said that my core is being worked. It is, but you're forward, or if you're doing a push-up plank, you're up onto the shoulder and you're straining that. So you got to stay away from those, or you have to elevate them where it takes it down off of the ground and you're maybe up on a bench and you can be back and you're using more of the 53 muscles that are working, see, when you're doing the core. Let me say this, though. As a trainer, I will always say, this is the one thing I hear from people. Oh, I hear snap, crackle, pop like Rice Krispies. Yeah. And I say, well, is there pain? No? Okay, well, that's our body.
Yep.
You agree with that?
100%. People ask that all the time. Oh, my shoulder pops, my hip pops. My response is, your body's supposed to make noise. It's just, we're moving. Now, it depends on the snap, crackle, or pop. If it is a snap every single time, it's usually a tendon going over a bony part or two tendons rubbing against each other, and that it's like rope. It'll wear down, and then that's where we get those tears.
And then we'll have pain. Like, I always make the joke that I could never try to sneak into the house when I was in high school because if I take shoes off, my feet, and still, it's like snap, 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 snap. Yep. My dad would be like, Monica?
I hear you.
No, actually, Monica Lynn.
When the middle name
She's
comes out,
home.
you're in
Yes,
trouble.
when the middle name comes out. But do you have movement with pain immediately thereafter or immediate as that happens?
Right.
Then that's a bad thing.
Yeah. And again, the shoulders are they're so hard to deal with because the shoulder's the most unstable joint in our body. Picture a golf ball on a golf tee. That's our shoulder. Yes. The only thing holding that ball on is muscles, tendons, and ligaments. And it's a fine line because a lot of people have heard of frozen shoulder.
Yes.
Frozen shoulder is when there's an injury, the body responds with calcium, and it's called adhesive capsulitis. So all these adhesions go around the joint when we're not moving, and then physically you cannot move the shoulder.
And if they have frozen shoulder, then what is the treatment?
So a lot of the soft therapy, the passive therapy that we do is our first line that we'll go through. We got to break up those adhesions, but I have to physically move the shoulder around. It's a painful thing. So that's why we don't go right into weights or resistance, but keep the shoulder mobile. One of the first ones that I'll do it's called a pendulum. So you just lean, which one I'm talking about. You lean over and you just move the shoulder around.
Yeah, you're kind of dangling over. I always say it's like stirring a soup.
Yes, it's perfect.
Soup.
Yep. And we start off with no weight, and then as we're getting stronger, we'll add like 5 pounds, maybe 10 pounds. Then you're recruiting more muscles. But you have, again, a fine line because the more motion, we might be injuring. But if we don't have any motion, then we get frozen shoulder.
Can we also talk about the fact that I'm going to applaud you for working out, but are you working out properly? Are you heavily loading front? And you're not working your back, which I see a lot of, right? We see the rounded shoulders. So you got to work back here. Yeah. Otherwise, that becomes so weak and you're getting a lot of pain because you're not working all the muscles of the back. Yeah. So you have to do that as well. And that's why we always ask you to look into a good trainer. Good morning, everybody. Again, all of you that are signing on. Dude's Playground, which is Rich. He said, I've had both rotator cuff repaired, but now I have a pain that is in my shoulder blade, more towards the middle of my back. Could that be coming from my back instead of my shoulder?
Yes and no. Because the scapula, there's so many muscles that attach the spine to the scapula. Is it a dysfunctional scapular motion that's causing the pain, or is it coming from the spine?
Okay.
That's
why you got to come in.
That's why you got to come in.
There is
that's
a
why we'll do our
hair
test.
that's getting on my nerves, Sean. Sorry. You need to come in and see him, Rich. And you should definitely take care of yourself. There's the hours, by the way. Monday through Saturday, they've got hours for you. Closed on Sunday, but they're located on Old De Pere Road. We just keep calling that the Rosalita's Complex. 1030 Old De Pere Road in De Pere. So yes, Rich, make an appointment and get in there. let's see, do you do muscle scraping? Kristen's asking.
Yes, we do. Again, but if it's a muscle issue, we will. There's it's called the Graston technique, and there's a tool, and we scrape the muscles. If there's any adhesions or calcium within the muscle, that's very effective. If it's on a tendon or a ligament where it's torn, it can give some relief, but it's really causing more inflammation.
It feels good. I had never
Yeah.
had it done until I went to physical therapy, and they did it on my foot
It's
when I
great.
had foot surgery.
Yeah. If that's the problem.
Right. They're not going to do it just to do it.
Right.
You'll make the
Hopefully not.
determination.
Yeah.
Please scrape my muscle.
Right.
Terry says laparoscopic labrum repair and possible bicep relocation is recommended for her. I had the cortisone shot on a 4-week physical therapy 2 times a week. Modalities help temporarily, but surgery, they're saying, is needed.
Sometimes it's a surgical issue. No,
So to put her mind at ease, how long of a recovery do you think that is?
depends on the surgery. If there's a full tear and they have to reconnect things, it can be over 8 weeks of recovery.
And hopefully you have a good surgeon. That's the
Yes,
other
that
thing.
is very
Don't just
true.
go with the very first surgeon. We've said this
Yeah.
every time. You have to be your own advocate.
Do your research on
Yes.
on a surgeon.
Oh my gosh,
Definitely.
absolutely. And we know a wonderful orthopedic surgeon, so ask me for sure. Okay, so let's talk about something my mom had done, which is fascinating to me, and I never even knew existed. But do you know about the reverse shoulder surgeries that they do? Like literally, it's like you think of your hip joint, and it's the ball and socket,
Yeah.
but it's reversed. They
Oh.
did a reverse shoulder surgery on her a handful of years ago.
Interesting.
Have you ever heard of that?
I have not heard of this one.
So look this up, by the
Yeah,
way.
I'm gonna look this up too.
I will say she said that she's not overly happy with how she's still feeling. She still feels pain in here, but it's weird because the way the shoulder capsule and everything is made,
Yeah.
they reverse it.
Oh, very interesting.
Right?
Yes, I'm looking into this one.
Yeah, exactly.
That sounds.
Yeah.
If it's beneficial, wonderful.
Yeah, but
If it's not helpful.
Yeah, well, again, you have to sit there and weigh, are you any better than you were when you had the
Right.
surgery? The other part is if someone has to go through surgery, it's coming back out of that and not dismissing going to their treatments, physical
Yes.
therapy, their chiropractor,
Yeah.
whatever level, or that they stop going, and then all of a sudden their range of motion is like maybe that.
That's the frozen shoulder.
Yes.
Yes, because we're not doing any motion. So for the first couple weeks, they do have you completely immobile, but I don't like that approach. I want some motion because we will get that frozen shoulder. Then the recovery is, we're going into 12, 15
Oh,
weeks,
absolutely.
even longer.
And when by the time you come to me and any trainer, we know that you didn't do your treatments because it is so long for us to try to bring you back. But you want us to be a miracle worker and get you back to where you were
Right.
before the surgery,
Yeah.
before the pain, in a week's time. And it's always this, right? I can always tell when someone has not done anything. They'll come in like this. And then the whole body moves upwards.
Yep.
And then I'm sitting there going, let's just climb up the wall
The
with
wall
no
walk.
weights. Let's
Yep.
just start walking the wall
Yep.
and starting to get that back.
So wall walk is a great first one also. Literally, you're using your fingers to walk up the wall. And I will test my patients. First day, you made it here. A week later, you're here. I know
Right.
you're doing your exercise.
Exactly.
If you're at the same spot, I know you're not doing it.
Exactly. And do not blame us.
Don't blame me.
The other thing is having like a band over. My mom did that after her shoulder surgery, and she was diligent in doing this, doing the bands and trying to all right, get that back up. Right, you're just trying to get you're not trying. I mean, maybe some people are trying to get back into the gym, but a lot of it is just I'm trying to get back to life
Getting back, right. Again, being able to reach into the back seat for something
without pain.
Without pain. Washing your hair. People with, if you've ever had shoulder pain, you're washing your hair like this because you can't raise your hands
Yes.
over your head.
Right.
Without pain. With the shoulder problem, there is pain. And it's unfortunate, and I hate people that come in with it, but there's a lot of success with shoulders.
Sure.
We deal with a lot of overhead athletes, so volleyball players, pitchers, javelin throw. That was a new one a couple months ago. Swimmers. All these, pickleball is another big one. It's very popular, but people are coming in with shoulder injuries because we're not used to these overhead stuff, and the repetitive injury. Like it's a micro trauma every time you're doing it. If you're continuously tearing them, anything overhead, we're just doing more damage. So before the tear happens, if we can strengthen the muscles around, great success. And we
I'm
can get out
glad
of
you
pain.
brought up pickleball because there's so many people that are playing it and they're thinking, oh, this is just some easy thing. It's like this little wiffle ball. And then they get really competitive with it. So it's kind of like that weekend warriors syndrome.
Yes, the weekend warrior. We all think we're 22. Yep. We want to go back out and start doing activities. Our bodies will, reality check.
And they're not warming up. I mean, they're just running out there and doing it. And I was like, you went from doing nothing to thinking that suddenly you're like playing in Wimbledon.
And so, in our heads, we're playing in Wimbledon.
Exactly.
But yeah.
Exactly.
Everybody, should I stretch before I do activity? I say no.
You say do slow movement?
Slow motion, dynamic mobility, get the shoulder moving, not just these static stretches that we're not doing anything. The muscles aren't warm. We're going to be doing more damage. So I love a warm up. Then you can go into your activity, but a slow warm up.
Yes. So for those of you and my husband, if you watch this, he doesn't warm up.
Nope.
Ever. He doesn't even stretch. He just goes right into it because he thinks that he can. It's that mentality. Terry says rehab will be done following surgery along with home exercises, to keep the mobility good. Kathleen, my husband had bilateral reverse shoulder surgery. He has incredible mobility, but doing the rehab is essential.
So another reverse shoulder surgery.
Yes.
All right.
You do?
I need to look this one up.
Yeah,
But I'm glad
you'll
he
be
had
fascinated
success.
by it.
That's great.
Dr. Paletta. Okay, that was the St. Louis Cardinals surgeon. Do you know
the
Dr.
orthopedist?
Paletta? Yes. So that's her surgeon. Okay. So she says he is probably good if he worked in the Cardinals.
I would say so.
Recovery can be 4 months, yes. So let's talk about also when you're working out that people say, but I can do this and I'm fine. I don't have any problems.
Sure.
And I'm like, but hold on a second. Like Dr. Sean just said, if I just barely put my fingertips against you and I say, I don't even want any weight in your hand. And I go like this and I go to have you push against me. You're like, oh, that's painful. There's a problem.
There's a problem there because when we're doing overhead presses, one, we're not really using too many of the rotator cuff muscles. We're using the deltoids and the traps. That's why we have those isolated tests, the soup can test, these internal, external rotation where, yes, we're recruiting some of the other muscles, but we're isolating a lot of the rotator cuff when we're doing those tests. But yeah, overhead press, great. That's not where the problem's at.
Right.
It's reaching down here or external rotation. That's another issue. If it's in the back, if it's in the front, if it's on top, those are all different muscles.
And when it comes to working out, and I'm glad you enjoyed what I did for them last week. I've got a butt one coming up this week.
Great.
Oh, it's a hard butt workout. Let me just say that. But I'm very big in working every angle that you possibly can. And those intrinsic muscles.
Yes.
So people are like, oh, I'm really good in the gym. And then they'll go, like I said, play pickleball or do something or go play golf. And they're like, wow, I'm so sore. Those muscles aren't being used, those intrinsic muscles.
Yeah, it's the smaller ones, the stabilizers of our joints that we don't work out often. And then when you do work them out, they're really sore because you haven't been using them.
Yes.
I call them the glamour muscles. This is more for guys. We do bench press and curls. Oh, look at my chest and my arms. Aren't they great? Your shoulders are weak.
Exactly.
Your shoulders are weak.
Give
I
us
can
some
tell.
boulder shoulders.
Right. If I can have them do an external rotation, they can't do 7 pounds.
Absolutely.
And yeah.
And when you do what he's talking about, by the way, make sure that you're not taking your elbow away from the body. We want you to keep it connected and then just see. You probably go ahead and do it at home while you're driving. Do it at home and see. For me, I had shoulder surgery on my left side. So I can't go out as far. It'll get stuck because when they did the surgery, they tied it deeply into my pec muscle. But we had so much that we were going back to try to fix.
Yeah.
From here, I mean, look how far I can
good.
go. Right? So you want to be able to do that. This one gets stopped. So I have to do that movement. But front raises, side raises, and not straight arm out and coming like this and raising up in here. But you've got to work all those levels. I want you to try to do that. No weights, just do the movement. And if you right away say, that's it right there, I have pain. Or if you turn and you're going thumb up or pinky up, that's kind of him talking about turning it over. That's when you start to find out, well, there it is. That's the pain.
That's the soup can test. Exactly. A good suggestion for these external rotation. What I see a lot, I say, let's do this with the resistance band. Everybody brings it.
Right.
They're doing this. You're working your back. We're not
Exactly.
focused on the shoulder. So if you roll up a towel, push it up against your body, because then you're going to focus on that elbow being pressed up against. Then
Good point.
you can really isolate those external rotators.
Right. That's, again, if you can't force that down, which a lot of people will start to let it go, that's a good point of trying to keep the towel there so it doesn't drop down.
Yes.
Then you're doing it properly.
It's
Are you a fan of Arnold presses?
Yeah.
Okay, and tell everybody why.
What we're doing with an Arnold press, as opposed to just a military press, the military press, we're out to the side, just raising up. The Arnold press, you're starting here in the front. So you're working anterior, posterior, and the lateral delt, but also then we're rotating as we're pressing up. So we're getting those, the rotator cuff muscles. I think if I read, I think you're using 12 muscles during an Arnold
On
press.
an Arnold press?
Versus I think it's 4 or 5 on just a military press.
And then I came up with, now I'm married, but back then when I was beginning my personal training, I came up with Adams presses. So Arnold does them this way, facing you and then turning up. I go this way and turn inward.
Oh, look at you.
By the way, it's a lot harder.
I
So
love
do
it.
not use the same weight that you use on an Arnold press.
No.
I'm stressing that.
No.
You're turning inward. You're coming.
I like that.
Yeah, try it.
All right, that's
Drop the weight
next
down
time.
a little bit. Use your core a little bit more. Don't go too far away from your body, but
Right.
start here and then turn inward here. And then you're using different muscles than you are on the Arnold press.
I like that.
Just trying to help you out a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes. Strengthening the muscles, we want that. If there's weakness without pain, we just got to build the strength there.
Yes.
But it's imperative, though, for you to go in and find out what's going on with you. So I know a lot of you have said you were going to make the call. Let's put it up on the screen for you again. 314-966-8989 and the website stl.com. Again, if there's pain, do not continue to do that movement until you get looked at to see what's going on there. We need to see Larry next week.
We'll bring Larry next week because we can talk low back and hips. Because if you're going to do
I'm doing glutes.
If you're going to do glutes,
And you're
then
going to be sore.
Then we can talk about hips.
Trust
Bring it
me,
in.
you're going to be sore. Okay, we're going to bring Larry back in and do that. And by the way, Dr. Sean's always saying, if you have anything in particular he would like for him to cover, just let us know in advance, and we'll be sure to cover that for you. Thank you, Sean.
Absolutely.
Dr. Neary, again, Mid-America Spine and Rehab. Okay, if you're doing everything you can, we are talking about working out, and you're just getting those last 5 to 10 stubborn pounds. And it's still, what I want is for all of you to be able to walk out and have confidence. I mean, that's the main thing. If you're walking around and you just feel so bad about yourself, there's something called body contouring that they can help you with. So Dr. Sara Franco is going to be in the blue chair next with InVita Health and Wellness, and we'll help you with that as we get ready for swimsuit season.
She's a special woman and done so much for St. Louis.
Watching her work is one of the most incredible things you can see.
She just sees value in everyone.
Sometimes people just need you to sit with them and hear them. I feel heard.
The time flew by, and it was like sitting and talking to a friend.
Not only creating a better place here in St. Louis, but to inspire others. It's always great to have examples like you.
You have such a light and such a presence, and I could feel it this morning.
We knew right away when you started this, we wanted to be on your show. Thanks for having us.
I look forward to seeing how you rock and roll and shake it up.
Welcome back. 7:39, and again, it's time for your health. Hopefully you had a chance to see our first part because so many of you have shoulder problems, and that's why we wanted to do that today. If not, go back and watch it. That's the beauty of the streaming. You can go back and see what you missed. But now we're going to talk about body contouring. Did you know that that's something that exists? There's a place I want you to go for it. It's InVita Health and Wellness. You know our guest, Dr. Sara Franco. Hope you had a good weekend.
I did. Was busy, as always, but good.
Did you celebrate at all the two big things everybody was celebrating, Cinco de Mayo or the Derby?
We don't do the Derby. I'm not a huge horse fan. I had like this traumatic encounter whenever I was little, so I haven't been able to shake that off. But but Cinco de Mayo, yeah, we went to a Mexican restaurant for lunch yesterday. So it was good. Yeah.
I did not. I was busy cleaning out my closet yesterday. No Cinco de Mayo partying for us. But the Derby, this is the reason we have all these flowers.
I started to say, this looks beautiful.
The Run for the Roses. Yeah, those were flowers over at Michelle's house. It was a fun weekend. We hope you had a good one. But we are very, very aware. By the way, Sarah just said she came in and she said it's still kind of nasty outside. So if you are leaving to head off to work, we gave you Beckett's forecast earlier. It's actually tomorrow and Wednesday, though, that are the big weather watchers. We could have a tornado maybe or some damaging winds. So
good.
I know, right? Yeah, yes.
Yay.
But that drizzle, it's annoying. It's all over the road and it's spraying up on your car. So slow your speeds down. Were people flying?
No,
They were behaving?
no, they were behaving. Traffic was terrible, but everybody has the frizzy hair, I'm sure, walking in now. So
No, your hair looks good. It does. Okay, we're going to talk about, we're almost getting out of spring and heading into summer. It's the awareness of sleeveless dresses. It's the awareness of, oh my gosh, we're going to be around the pool, whatever, less and less clothes. And what I'm going to say is that I give all of you credit for doing everything you can to work out. But it gets to a point where people are like, but I'm still so frustrated these last 5, 10, 15 pounds and what they see. And here's the thing. If you are lacking confidence, then that's really all that matters, is we want to bring that back. So I was talking to Sarah over the weekend and I said, we haven't discussed this. Let's talk about body contouring. So first, if someone is thinking about that, they're thinking, oh, well, what is body contouring and what do you have there that we can do? So first start with that. What is body contouring?
Okay, so body contouring is basically working on that subcutaneous fat layer that is that's overlying the muscle in order to reduce the size of those fat cells and make those muscles kind of shine through. So when you think of body contouring, everybody thinks of liposuction. That was, that's the original. Not everybody's a candidate. There's a lot of downtime. It is a risky procedure, not to mention you're undergoing general anesthesia generally for it. And it can be pretty expensive. So that's kind of the original body contouring. But now there's a number of devices that are out, as well as different, chemical kind of invasive versus non-invasive options that folks have in order to get those results that they're looking for.
Yeah, the invasive side is what I was just going to mention because yes, you probably know, or maybe you went through liposuction and it was, wow, that was a lot of downtime. I didn't want to have to go through that. Or people heard horror stories of the different things that people went through. But then all of a sudden over the last decade or so, people started talking about different treatments that were out there, and then they would question, does that really work? Like the freezing, does that work? The cool thing, does this work? Well, let's ask Sarah. She's the one that's going to be able to answer all this for us. What are the treatments that you have, and how does it work?
Okay, sure. So, so the difference in treatments, you mentioned cooling. There's cool sculpting. So basically, you're either going to freeze fat cells or you're going to destroy fat cells with heat. We actually we go the latter of the two, and we destroy fat cells with heat. One, the white papers that are out just shows it to be more to get better results and to be more effective for patients. And there are some lower risk as far as a couple years ago it came out with cool sculpting, that idiopathic hyperplasia of those fat cells, which is a rare condition. So to be completely fair to cool sculpting, that is a rare condition, and it can happen with heat induced as well. However, it's even more rare whenever you're using radiofrequency or heat.
Okay, so the one that you're doing, does it have more efficacy than the cool sculpting did?
The white papers show that it does,
okay.
But those are very subjective studies. There hasn't been a huge number of clinical research that's been done in this capacity. It was the one that the science made the most sense to us, and the white papers that are out did support it. So that was the direction that we went.
Okay. Again, Dr. Sara Franco, InVita Health and Wellness, if you're just tuning in, talking about the body contouring. So for the treatment that you're doing, what's it called?
Okay, so we use InMode's product. So InMode is the creator of things like Morpheus 8 and a couple other Lumecca, Diolase, things like that. We have Evolve, which is for the body, and then we have Evoke, which is for the chin and neck area, and then just the distal 1/3 of the face.
Oh, okay. So if they're doing body and they're saying, oh, well, this is it. This is exactly what I've been waiting for. What does it look like? So they come in first for a consultation with you?
Definitely. So
okay.
Regardless of where you go in for a consultation, and even take a look at maybe getting a second opinion. Because one thing I want to stress is, especially with the age of semaglutide and tirzepatide and things like that, people are losing massive amounts of weight. it will become at some point it becomes a surgical fix. There's not enough heat or skin tightening. As we get older, that collagen doesn't form as fast in our skin, so that elasticity, we lose some of that. It takes a longer time for our skin to kind of bounce back, especially if it's been kind of stretched out with gaining a lot of weight. So it's really important that you're not just spinning your wheels and wasting your time and your money. If it's a surgical fix, then you need to go see a plastic surgeon.
Well, I'm sure you probably all in your head go to, I don't remember what the name of the show was, but it was the guy, I think his name was Chris. He was a personal trainer, and he would take these people through these massive weight loss and transformations, and it was incredible, but they had to get to a certain point before they would end up having to have the surgery. They wanted to have the surgery, obviously, to get rid of all that excess skin. So you can do everything you can on your own workouts, and then you get to a point where you're like, oh, maybe I can do this. No, you've got to get that skin gone.
Right.
And that can only be done surgically.
Exactly.
But, so we're not talking about that extent. If we're talking about someone, if they're coming in for this, they're typically, what, are they in that 5, 10, 15 pound, that stubborn?
It depends on where they've lost the weight and what they're looking to target. So we don't really put a weight on it, but it's just, that is the importance of coming in for a consultation, because we like to, kind of over deliver, under promise. And the last thing I want is for a patient to spend thousands of dollars to work on something, and knowing deep down that we're just not going to be able to take care of that for them. So if they come in and we'll just take a look. If there is a certain degree of skin elasticity, under the arms is a big area. You mentioned wearing sleeveless dresses. Men don't seem to care about that as much as women do, and I know there's men out there who do care about it. But I mean, the ladies, we all walk around with our arms up like this and everything, everything that we've been told to kind of to stretch that out. But the depending on where it is, I mean, you could have lost a large amount of weight and still be a candidate for the body contouring, but you really need to have a consultation and have us look at that area, take a look at what your expectations are, and if it's something that we can meet, we're absolutely happy to help out. But if it's not, then then we're going to refer you off to somewhere else.
So again, Evolve for the body, Evoke for the neck area.
For the neck area, and Evolve is broken down into three different modalities. So we have Evolve Tight, which is just skin tightening. So if you have the loose skin in the abdomen or the loose skin under the arms, really anywhere that we can put the little paddles, it uses radio frequency, and it stimulates collagen production, and you're going to see a tightening of that skin.
Immediate?
No, it isn't immediate.
Okay.
So that's another big thing to stress. If you have liposuction, that's an immediate result. You walk out, and once you're upright and walking, and and out of all the pain, you can see an amazing body transformation. This is definitely a marathon, not a sprint. So this, we're looking at 3 to 6 months out. So it's not anything that you would do today in order to be ready, at the end of May or in June for a bathing suit. It's just not going to work that way.
Okay.
You are going to see a difference, but that difference is going to get better and better and better the longer that you go on. So I mentioned Tight. There is Tone. Evolve Tone, which is just electromuscle stimulation. So kind of these paddles that can go on any muscle group, but basically it just causes this muscle contraction and relaxation over and over and over again involuntarily, and it not painful, but kind of odd feeling, but it's equivalent to doing about 10,000 sit-ups in 60 minutes. So for those of us who don't have that kind of time, or muscle, abdominal abilities, then that's a nice alternative. The third option with Evolve is Transform. So that does fat melting as well as muscle toning at the same time. Because if you start losing weight and just tightening or just losing the weight or just burning through the fat, that's not doing anything to underneath the fat to meet up with that skin. So now you've solved one problem and created another problem, and now you have the skin laxity. Instead of just burning through that fat, you're also building the muscle underneath at the same time. So you don't get that skin laxity. That fat's just being replaced with muscle.
Tight, Tone, Transform. Okay.
Correct.
And I'll look if any of you have any questions with regards to this. If they come in and do this, and then they don't change anything, because we're very big on you making lifestyle changes. They don't change anything. They don't work out. They're eating horrible. They have this done, which I don't know why you would spend the money and go through this process to not help change your life. But if they don't change anything, will all that come back?
It will. So one important thing to know, and I, until I got into this, I didn't really appreciate the differences, and this is very oversimplification, but we're all born with a number of fat cells. We all, whether you're grossly morbidly obese or you're underweight, we all have the same amount of fat cells. It is those fat cells shrinking and growing. When we diet, that's when we see the fat cells kind of shrink, and then we gain weight, and then they expand again, and then they shrink, and that's why you're not really you're not destroying, you're not reducing the number of fat cells. When you do something like cool sculpting or M-Sculpt or our modality N-Mode, or even some of the chemical things that I haven't mentioned yet, like the Kybella or PCDC, you're actually dissolving or destroying those fat cells. So you're either freezing them, and then in hopes that the body will break it down, and then it's absorbed in the blood and lymphatics, and you pee and poop it out, or you're going to melt those cells and with the same result. So you're actually destroying those cells. So yes and no. Okay. They're not going to come back because the fat cells are destroyed. But if you continue on the same path, then all you're going to do is cause those other adipose cells to get hyperplastic and big again, and then you're going to be in the same exact position. At a cellular level, maybe not quite as big, or the cells, there's not quite as many cells, but if they get hypertrophic, then you're going to be back in the same position that you were in.
So really, and that's why we've always said, when you go in to see Sara and her staff, they will do this full consultation to say, what are you doing to help change the course that you were on? So if you're making this decision to say, okay, I've been doing this, but it's not this, as you just said, it's not this quick fix for you. You're going to go through this process. Are they doing multiple treatments?
They are. So we build it into a package of 8 treatments, and if they get to where they feel like they're noticing a good difference, let's say they started with their abdomen and now they want to work on their thighs, then they can move it to that. They can move
of
it to
those
that
8
area.
They can move around.
Yep, exactly.
I'm going to take a quick break. When I come back, I'll look at your questions, but also interested to see, is it the abs? Is it the hip area? Is it the thighs? Is it more women than men? A lot of questions in my head. All of that coming up with Dr. Sara Franco with InVita Health and Wellness when we return.
We need women to lift women up.
Let's do that.
Being on Monica's show, it was like one of the best interviews I've ever had.
Monica's very real, and she really cares about people.
She's changing lives.
Changing lives.
I think this is just really what people want to see.
Giving back so much to the community, and I really appreciate it.
Today, Monica was extraordinarily real, not only with me, but with her viewers and her listeners.
Made the interview process like talking to a friend.
How are you doing? Good to see you. Haven't seen you in a few weeks.
Hey! You're close!
Monica! Whoa!
So go out in this world and be anything you want to be. But before you do that, first, be kind.
7:54, and remember to share these with your friends and family. If this isn't affecting you, but you know it's somebody that you know very well that's struggled and thought, yeah, this is something that sounds like them, share that with them. We're on Facebook and YouTube right now, and if you missed a good majority of the show already, go back and watch it so you don't miss any aspect of it. So as I went into the break, I mentioned more women than men. Typically?
Typically, yes. That's what we're seeing.
But have you seen more men over let's just go back 20, 30 years. Guys weren't doing a lot of this stuff. And then guys are like, oh, wait a minute. I want to be happy and healthy also. So you see that percentage come up a bit?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Good. Yep. So again, men and women both. What are the areas that are done most? Is it in the abdomen first?
Definitely, hips, thighs, abdomen, underarms. We can, kind of work on some of that stubborn kind of bra fat, the back fat.
The third boob, they call it.
Your back boobs. Any of those areas that it's really hard to to target. There are definitely exercises that you can do to target those areas, but just a little bit that deeper fat is just a little bit more stubborn and harder to get rid of.
Are there any side effects or risks that go along with any of these treatments?
So anytime, so with any of them, like I mentioned, there is that that phenomenon, that idiopathic hyperplasia of the adipose tissue, PAH, adipose hypertrophy, which is, I want to be totally clear, possible with either of the modalities, either cool or heating. So I don't want to say ours is
rare.
It is more rare with the heating modalities because you're actually melting it. And what they think happened with this, if you remember that the supermodel that that was pretty disfigured from it, and I say rare when working in anesthesia. We actually saw some of these, things gone wrong, which these companies will pay for patients to have plastic surgery and things like that to reverse them. So they are rare when you look at the number of treatments that are being done, but they're not unheard of for sure. But regardless, what we think happened is, with COVID, be it having the COVID virus or getting the vaccine, either one, it really kicked everybody's body and immune systems into overdrive. So anytime anything kind of foreign was done to the body did what it's built to do, and it would just kind of encapsulate things and wall them off, which is what, it's what we do with viruses, what we do with bacteria. That's why we get swollen lymph nodes and things like that. So the thought was, a lot of times with cool sculpting, what that modality does is it actually kind of sucks the adipose cells up to the surface, and again, very oversimplification, and freezes it. But the body was recognizing this as foreign, and instead of freezing it and then it breaking down and just being excreted out of the body was actually kind of encapsulating it and just holding on to that ball of frozen fat, if you will, which was causing these kind of lumpy, bumpy, disfigurations in patients. Again, same thing can happen with the heat, but if you're heating it up and destroying it, it's pretty readily destroyed. So the risk of that was less. But we saw it with dermal fillers, with things that were injected into the skin. So there were many of us. There was a 2-year period where I did not do filler at all on patients. Again, it was rare, but if you ran into somebody who was kind of in hyperdrive as far as their immune system goes, injecting anything into them or really doing anything to their body was just causing this phenomenon.
You mentioned Evolve and Evoke earlier. More people coming in for Evolve than Evoke, or is the Evoke coming up a little bit more?
Evoke is definitely coming up a little bit more, especially once, with the Ozempic face, when patients are having the sagging. But really just, we age, you want to age gracefully, but we realize that, there is something that you can do to kind of keep that sharper jawline or when you get the double chin or the kind of gobbler down here. There's just different things that you can do. Not everybody has $80,000 to go have a neck lift.
Right.
So this is definitely something that is much more affordable for patients.
Well, I was just going to come, since you just brought that up. So people are probably going, okay, well, how much does this cost?
So it ranges, depending on the package, it ranges anywhere from $2,500 to $3,800, depending on which modality you're using and how many treatments you're doing. But we do recommend at least the makers of the product recommended packages of 6, which is what we started with. And then we had patients that, they would do 4 or 5 and they're like, I wish I would have done my thighs now. So we moved it to 8 so that they could kind of split those up if they wanted to, and do 4 and 4 in each area.
I've seen some pictures. So when you go into Sara's office, you'll see some pictures as you walk in and go into the room to the left. Look at those, because you might start thinking, oh, well, that's me. Or as I mentioned before, oh, this is a friend of mine. I've got a friend that I went to school with, and she would always get so frustrated because she would look at her mom and say, this is what I have coming, right? Looking at your parents or your grandparents. And she always got frustrated because she's like, I work out, but I have this from my mom. Instead of it going and cutting like you're talking about, she would have that. And that's what you're talking about with the Evoke, right?
Yes. Yep.
So there you go. What does it feel like? So you do more of the heat. I remember years ago I was in radio and I had, I don't even remember the place. They opened up and they said, Monica, we want you to come in as an on-air personality. We want you to talk about this. And I said, well, I don't want to have it done. They go, no, but we want you to talk about it. Just come in and do it. And it was the cold thing. And I was like, okay, this is weird. And there's like rubbing it around the legs and stuff. They go, now you would have to come back more. I'm like, right, I don't want to. I don't want to. But I wanted to see how it felt. That was freezing cold. So the heat is is it really, really hot, or what does it feel like? And for people that have never had this done,
it does get warm, so it gets up to 43 degrees Celsius. But we are able to control that based on patient, their how well they're able to tolerate it. Of course, there's going to be times when, if they have an artificial joint or something like that, then we have to be mindful of those kind of things. But for the most part, I would say 90% of patients are able to get up to the 43 degrees very comfortably. I think most of us would rather have something really warm placed against us, not burning, but really warm placed against us, than something really, really cold placed against us. So what I've heard about the cold sculpting, I haven't ever personally had it done, but is that it can be kind of painful. This modality is not painful at all. Now, when you get into transform or tone, where you're having the electric muscle stimulation, you can feel those muscles working, and you just feel weird. It's so funny. I'll go in and patients are just, because they can't control it. But other than just, kind of just that awkward feeling, it's not a painful procedure at all. And if you're just doing the skin tightening with just the heat, then it's very relaxing, actually.
And is it done in like a circular motion, or what is the?
No, we put the paddles on it. We set it and forget it. So
you walk out and it's being done on its own.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
See,
Yep.
again, it's all very, very different. Yes. So all of those, you mentioned like 8 in a package. Is that with Evolve and Evoke, or just Evolve?
No, it's with both of those.
It is with both.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you can kind of change things around. So all of you that say, women more than men, as you had said earlier, when you're waving, if your skin continues to wave, and then you just get frustrated by that. And kids don't mean any harm, by the way. I always laugh. Grandparents and parents will say, the young kids will go, "Why is your arm waving?" If you're tired of hearing that, then maybe you would be a candidate for this. Look into this. Again, there are many things. So you talked about the radio frequency aspect. Mesotherapy.
So yes, that's getting more into the invasive side of things.
Okay.
So I kind of quantify invasive as if we're putting a needle into the skin, or I'm like, if I have to wipe you off with alcohol beforehand or use any kind of anesthetic on it, then we're going to probably consider it pretty invasive. So mesotherapy is using a chemical called phosphatidylcholine deoxylate. Kybella is what its trade name is. It was originally intended to just be injected underneath the chin, and it's actually been around a lot longer than what Kybella itself has been around. They use it actually intravenously it dissolves the fats inside of the blood vessels, which we talked about that one time several months ago. Mm-hmm. Offering PCDC infusions, but it will dissolve that fat inside of the blood vessels much the same as it will in the subcutaneous area. But originally it was just used under the chin to dissolve that fat, and now it can be used in any of those stubborn areas to induce what we call a chemical lipolysis, so just destruction of those fat cells.
How early would you say someone should be looking into this? Can it be done at an earlier age, or is everybody waiting too long to be doing these treatments?
No, it actually, probably the sooner the better, because the longer the fat sits in the skin, the more the skin is going to kind of stretch out to accommodate that fat. That's where you start to have the problems with getting that skin to kind of bounce back the way it is supposed to. So, and mesotherapy, please note that there's kind of two different ones. So there's mesotherapy for skin rejuvenation, which is just injected very superficially into the epidermis of the skin. And then there is mesotherapy where we're actually injecting into that subcutaneous fat. So today we're talking about the subcutaneous fat.
But that slide showed many things that can be done.
It did. I just wanted to point that out because it showed many areas of the face, supraorbital, or actually really supra and infraorbital area around the eye. We would look at injecting it. So if you have the big puffy bags underneath the eye, and then if you get some kind of adipose hypertrophy up above, like just below the eyebrow above the eye, we can inject in those areas. But most of the time we do not want to lose subcutaneous fat of the face. So kind of that cheek area that it's showing, that would be more of a skin rejuvenation area.
That third line down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know if we've ever talked about it before, but I remember my aunt, she's rest in heaven. She used to talk about how she would get frustrated with the hood eyes. Mm-hmm. What do you do for that?
So there's actually several different things. So you need to do something to tighten that skin. So so you can use PCDC. We can use a plasma pen, anything to stimulate collagen production. So you can do microneedling. There's a number of things. Anything that you do around the eye, though, the eye is incredibly vascular. So we can do everything that we can to avoid it, but you're probably going to have a black eye afterward. So that's something that's going to have a little bit of downtime.
And if they're doing that, is there several treatments or is this a one-time thing?
Really, the chemical side of things, I mean, generally I tell patients it's probably going to take a couple of treatments. It's really going to depend on how much fat you're dealing with. If it's just, if it's just a little bit of the bra fat, then that can be taken care of with one. But if you have, if you have the jelly roll or a muffin top over the side of your pants, then it's probably going to be at least 3 treatments.
Do you have, see, again, and we all have our things that we're looking at saying, if you're not happy, and plain and simple, that's really what life should be about, that you're walking around happy. But for women, they're usually talking about their belly, their hips, their thighs. Guys are always talking about their belly and then the back fat. Do they come in for that?
They do.
They do.
That's a big one. That's a big one. Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Look at yourself in the mirror. I know you don't like to look in the mirror, but I want you to look in the mirror. Rich, good morning, Sarah. I should be hearing from the VA this week to see if they're going to pay for my ketamine treatments.
Okay,
I'm very
great.
excited about it.
Oh, very excited too.
And Rich, gosh dang it, I want to call you Richard. Rich, I mentioned, he has been dealing with so much over the years, and he finally came back, and he had not seen this really wonderful piece that we did last year, and it was near the beginning of our collaboration with Sarah, and I said, you need to watch Gilbert's story. And so when he did that, I think it really probably brought a lot of emotions out of him, and he's like, all right, I'm going to do this. So I know you've been waiting on that. I would love to have him on afterwards.
Absolutely. He was such a pleasure to meet too. Such a great guy.
Isn't he?
Yeah, he was.
Dude's
he was
Playground.
wonderful.
We love
Wonderful.
Rich. All right, so anyway, so these are things that you can look into so you're not going around and just unhappy. If that's where you are in life, I want you to give my friend a call. So let's put it up on the screen. It's InVita Health and Wellness.com. So if you have not been in yet for your consultation, that's your first order of business. 314-394-0950. They're located, by the way, in Kirkwood. But there's so many things. I mean, we've had a year's worth of conversations about all the things that they can do for your health, for your inside of the body, for the outside of the body, just making you the happiest you can be. Okay, before we wrap up, let's see. Which one haven't we not done in a while? So this is fear and anxiety. Everybody seems to pick that one. Shame, which might be fitting for today.
Okay, let's
right?
try that one. Sure.
You feel that or you feel depression?
No. Let's
shame.
do shame. We
Because
need a little sunshine out there.
Right, we need this. And it actually is going to be sunny. So our What the Weather forecast is supposed to be in the upper 70s later, even though it feels dreary. Beckett says we've got sunshine coming. When we come back, we're going to talk about choices. It's day 24 of 100 Days to Freedom from Shame and Stephen Arterburn. Stay tuned.
InVita Health and Wellness, where you can feel your best both inside and out. InVita isn't your typical med spa. They're a multi-specialty medical spa and wellness center serving St. Louis and its surrounding areas. They have ketamine for mental health and pain, IV therapy, medical weight loss, and aesthetics treatments. As board-certified anesthesia providers, InVita can ensure that their advanced treatments are provided safely with minimal to no pain. So let InVita take care of you. Call 314-394-0950 to book an appointment or online InVitaHealthAndWellness.com.
Before we get to our book, there's a quick question I want to get to from Misty Schwaller. Misty, I don't think I've talked with you before. You're new to the show. She does have a question for Sarah. Can you use concealer and foundation after the hooded eye treatment, or do you have to walk around with the bruising?
No. So short answer, no. We do recommend for the first day, especially if we're doing something like a plasma pen or the microneedling where you're basically like aerating the skin. We don't want you to turn around and just fill it back up with makeup and foundation. But after a day, I tell patients, give me 24 hours before you start, putting anything on. And we have things like arnica and things like that that we can use that'll help break down that hemoglobin to make the bruises go away faster. But yeah, give me 24 hours, and then after that, you can put on any makeup or concealer that you need to take care of that.
So make your appointment and then go home and rest, or just stay at home if you want to.
Yeah.
Don't go out. Don't make plans out. Okay, so choices. The choices choices we make, you will always harvest what you plant. Oh, that's a good one. Galatians 6, verse 7. Ever wonder how many choices you make every day? Probably thousands. Psychology Today reports that the average person makes 35,000 choices every day.
Right.
If a person spends 7 hours a day sleeping, that leaves about 2,000 choices per hour while you're awake. That's about one decision every 2 seconds. Makes you feel a little tired, doesn't it? The more important question is, how many bad decisions do we make every day? Unsurprisingly, the quality of your life is going to fluctuate depending on your answer. Perhaps the reason you're battling shame is because you made a bad decision. Maybe you made quite a few of them and they finally caught up with you. So, how are you going to improve on your decision making? A key to making consistently good choices is to decide as many things as possible ahead of time. Well, that's called organization, especially things to do with faith and morality. For example, if you're married, you don't wait until an attractive coworker flirts with you to decide how you're going to respond to flirtations, correct? If you decide in the moment, you increase your chances of making a really bad choice. You must settle the matter ahead of time. Yes. Be like the farmer who knows that his harvest hinges on what he does long before the harvest season arrives. Stephen Brown says, one of the greatest discoveries of my life as a pastor who counsels was the discovery that people are what they have decided to be. Today's prayer: Dear Lord, my choices have not always been good. Thank you for loving me anyway. Help me to be more thoughtful in the future and to make my most important decisions ahead of time, guided by Scripture. Good one. Choices. Well, thank you, Sara.
Thank you.
Again, InVitaHealthAndWellness.com. Make those appointments, and the phone number again is, there you go, 314-394-0950. If you're just tuning in and you missed the whole show, remember to put hashtag replay. I can usually grab those and I'll forward those on to Sara if there's any questions you have, or for Sean for that matter, that had to do with shoulder injuries. Have a good day.
You too.
And to all of you as well, grab the umbrella maybe for the rest of the morning commute, but sunshine is coming. And then tomorrow, I'm really excited about this. You know, you've heard about is it 7 degrees of separation of Kevin Bacon? 8 degrees, 6 degrees? Have you heard that before?
Yes.
I think it's 7. Is it 7 or is it?
I thought it was 6.
6?
I thought it
6
was
degrees?
6 degrees. Mm-hmm.
Well, whatever it is, I'm kind of feeling like I'm in that boat because in my career, I've always wanted to interview 3 more people, and then I'll be really happy in my 30 years. One of them is Julia Roberts. We've got to make that happen. One is Jennifer Aniston, and the other is Pink, where I'm getting closer to Pink. Yes. Because tomorrow I have someone who played drums for her for 13 years. His name is Mark Schulman. He played for Cher. He played for Foreigner. He played for Velvet Revolver. He's called one of the best drummers out there, and I know he's got Pink's phone number. I've got to get this happen. I've got to make this happen. So Mark Schulman and his partner, Heather Kreider, they're both coming in phenomenal speakers. They will really inspire you. It's the rock star mentality, right? We all want to walk around like rock stars. Well, what is that mentality all about? And then believing in yourself more than your grandmother. That's the name of the book. We're going to talk with Heather Kreider and Mark Schulman tomorrow, and we will be hopefully having Beckett back on. Beckett was sick this morning, but Beckett will probably want to be on with us tomorrow because severe weather tomorrow and Wednesday. So just be weather aware. All right? Go out, enjoy your day, and remember to spread the word of kindness. God bless you all.